I'm Asif Khwaja from ATH Business Solutions. Today we are so excited to show you our new version of Timesheet Management app that we have built with Microsoft Power Platform, including PowerApps, SharePoint Online, and Microsoft Teams. I will show you how the app works and where the data for the app is being saved and what improvements we have made. Now, before we look at the app itself, let's remember that we can use any Power App in many different ways. For example, we can embed this timesheet app into a SharePoint site. Now, this SharePoint site could be a team site or it could be a departmental site where employees of that department could go and see this timesheet app on the page and use it there. Similarly, we could also embed this same timesheet management app into a Microsoft Teams. So we could have a channel created under a team, and on that channel, we could create a tab and embed that Power App over there. So all the members of that Microsoft team would be able to come here and use this app and submit their timesheets and manage other things. And of course, they can also run this timesheet management app independent of those applications and run it as an independent app in the browser. And of course, because this is a Power App, and we all know that Power Apps can be used on mobile phones as well, be it Android or iPhone, as long as you have the Microsoft Power app installed on your phone, you can run any Power App on that phone. Now, having understood all that, let's start and see how this timesheet management app works. So first of all, you would have noticed that on the home screen of this timesheet management app, we have these 6 buttons on the screen. Each of these buttons have different functionality in it. Some of these buttons you may have noticed have these locks on them, which is telling us that these buttons would not be for everyone. These would be restricted to some authorized employees, and we will have a look at them in a while. So the app also shows who the currently logged in user is. In this particular case, it's myself. Now, let's go and have a look at these sections one by one. The first one is the submit button. This is where we can go in, or any employee can go in and submit their timesheets, as well as complete any of their previously created timesheet, but they haven't submitted it yet. So let's have a look at this. Now, when we go into the submit section, the app shows us the timesheet form. This is where an employee can go in and fill in their timesheet for a specific week. Now let's have a look at different elements that we have on this app one by one. So we have on the left hand side on the top this drop down button, which is showing the current week ending. All weeks end at Friday, so they start at Monday and end Friday. So this is showing the current week ending for the 29th of May, Friday, which happens to be today. But if I open up this drop down, it will show me 3 previous weekends or weeks, as well as 3 forthcoming weeks. Now, as an employee, I can select not only current week and submit my timesheet for that week, but I can also select any previous week, like last week or maybe a week before that, because I might not have submitted my timesheet for that week yet. Or I can also go ahead and select a forthcoming week and submit my timesheet for one of those weeks, but maybe not submit it yet because I still have to work for that week, but I can start filling in my timesheet for that week. So we have all of this functionality available here. Now remember that this is not a static drop down. This is dynamic drop down. As the weeks pass on, this drop down will automatically pick up the current week as the default week and 3 previous weeks and 3 forthcoming weeks in that drop down automatically. All right, so we have a little bit of flexibility in terms of selecting what week we want to submit our timesheet for. On the right hand side, it also shows what week of the year this currently selected week is. So it's the week number 22 for year 2020. And below that, it also shows what was the starting day and ending day for this particular week. Now, regardless of what day of the week you are in, this drop down will automatically show you the week ending date for that specific week. Okay. On the right hand side, we have an approver field here, which automatically selects the employee's current approver or current manager as the approver. Now they have the option to delete that approver that the app has automatically selected for them, and then go and search for some other person as an approver for them. But and this is because their immediate manager might not be available for that specific week, and they want to send their timesheet to some other person who is authorized to approve their timesheets, obviously. So that functionality is available. But for this particular example, we will go ahead and select my manager, who happens to be John Khwaja in this particular example tenancy here. And you can see I'm currently logged in and my manager is John Khwaja. Now below this section, we have this form here with 7 days of the week listed here for the currently selected week. And we have these columns here: day start time, lunch start time, lunch finish time, day end time, and break hours. And then we have the total hours for that particular day listed here. Now what happens is, the way that the timesheet app has been configured for this particular environment is that for Saturdays and Sundays, it automatically selects 0 for all of these columns. Hence, the total hours calculated is 0 for those 2 days, because employees don't work generally on Saturdays and Sundays. But if they happen to work on a specific Saturday or Sunday, then yeah, by all means, they can go in and start selecting their times when they started their work on that particular day, and they what time they finished, and the app will automatically calculate the times based on the selected times here. Now this one is red highlighted, which says that hey, the time cannot be earlier than the day start time. So for this particular example, we will leave it on 0 just to see that how it would generally work. Now for Mondays and Tuesdays and other days, we can definitely go in and change these default times. So the default times always are 9 a.m. and then lunch start time is 12 and 1 p.m. start and end times, and then day end time happens to be 5:30 p.m. here. And based on these timings, it calculates that the total number of hours for that day are 7.5 hours. Now remember that we can change in the configuration of this app and change the default times to suit the default start and ending times of your organization, and I will show you how to do that in a while. But for this example, we have configured the timings as per these timings that you see here: 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1, and then 5:30 as the day end times. But as an employee, I have this option to go in and change these times. So for example, on Tuesday, I started at 10 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. So it will automatically calculate 6.5 hours for that day. Similarly, I can change, let's say for Thursday, I started on 9 o'clock, ended at 5:30, but actually I took 1 hour break in between. So again, it will calculate 6.5 hours for this day. And then at the end here, it says 35.5 hours, total hours for this week. The current status of this week's timesheet is in progress, so that's why it's showing as in progress. And also notice that because we have changed some of the values of this timesheet, it's indicating that the data has changed and it needs to be saved. Okay, now before we save, I want to show you also that even though when a new timesheet starts and it shows all of these default times as 9 and 12 and 1 and 5:30, it might be possible that on a specific day an employee was on leave or couldn't come, or maybe it was a day off for the company, so nobody came on that day. So that's where they can actually use these reset buttons. What reset button does is that it actually clears the values for that whole day. So rather than employee going in and changing the times one by one on each of these drop downs to 0 to make the calculations 0 for that day, you just need to simply click on this reset button, which will make all the drop downs to 0, and hence the total calculated hours for that day would be 0, and then you can quickly go in and save your timesheet. All right, so okay, we have created one timesheet for this particular week, and I think as an employee I'm happy. I want to save this timesheet. So before I can submit this for approval to my manager, I would need to save this timesheet. So let's save it. Now this data that is being saved in a SharePoint site behind. Now let me quickly show you the SharePoint site where all of this data is being saved, so you can understand how the data is being stored for this timesheet management app. Now this is the SharePoint site that we have created for this purpose. And on this timesheet SharePoint site, we have these different lists, SharePoint lists, and these are custom lists. Okay, now these SharePoint lists have all of the data that is being created from that timesheet management app. So for example, we have a timesheet employees list here. This timesheet employees list is the one that stores the name of the employee who is submitting the timesheet. Now each employee will have only one record in this timesheet employees list. Similarly, we have another list that contains timesheet employees weeklies data. Every weekly timesheet that an employee creates, this timesheet employees weeklies list will have one record for that employee's weekly timesheet. So for example, in this particular case, you can see that we just submitted one timesheet for 29th of May, week ending 29th of May. It's still in progress. We haven't submitted it yet for approval, as opposed to the other one that's already submitted, and this was submitted to the approver, who is my manager, John Khwaja. Similarly, we have a third list that actually stores every employee's every week's all 7 days data for that timesheet. So for example, you can see that we submitted a timesheet for the week ending 29th of May, and we have these 7 records for each of those days of this week with different times that we selected and submitted, and you can see that how all of that data has been saved in this timesheet details list here, with all of the hours calculated, and of course the status, which it is showing that it's in progress. All right, so this is just to give you an idea that how the data is being saved in this SharePoint site. Now as an administrator, you can definitely go into this SharePoint site and generate reports or export this data into an Excel document for your reporting purpose and all that. But as an end user or as an employee, you don't necessarily need to know where this data is being saved and all that. All right, so heading back to let me close some of these tabs and head back to our timesheet app here. So now that we have saved our data and I am happy with my data here, I can go ahead and submit my approval. Now, before I submit, I may not be ready for approval. I could, go and come back and submit this one tomorrow. I have the option to do that absolutely. So I can click on my home button here and go back to my Timesheet Management apps homepage. I can close my browser. I can go home. I can come back tomorrow and start again. So before we go and submit, let me show you what this My Timesheets section is. If I go into the My Timesheet section, this is where you, as an employee, you can go and view all of your timesheets, not just past 3 timesheets or any other timesheets, all timesheets that you have created so far and saved them, including all of your past timesheets. So let's go in this section. And now on this view, you can see that we have 2 drop downs on the top, and this is only for myself as an employee. So I won't be able to see any other employees' timesheets here because obviously as an employee, I'm not authorized to. But we have a drop down here which shows 4 statuses. So a timesheet can be in progress while I'm creating it. It could have been submitted already. It could have been approved by an approver, or it could have been rejected. So it happens that the rejected status is selected here, and obviously we don't have any rejected timesheets for me. So it says that, hey, no timesheets found for the status rejected. If I go and select in progress, then you will notice that it shows us that, yeah, there is one timesheet which is in progress for the week 29th of May. And it also shows that this is the 22nd week. And here's the timesheet data that we have created. Now on this very screen, I cannot make any changes to this timesheet. All right, so now we can see that, yeah, we have a timesheet that we have previously created. If I go and select submitted, then you will see that I have a submitted timesheet as well for the previous week, which was 22nd of May, and it's still submitted, and my manager hasn't really approved it yet. But once they approve it, then I can come in here and see that whether the timesheet has been approved or not. All right, so going back to the home screen, let's go and see what happens when we submit a particular timesheet. So again, this is the week 29th of May, and I'm happy with my data here, and I will go ahead and submit my timesheet. But now again, because we came into this screen, it says that data needs saving, so I can click on save button to save my data. Yeah, it may have been that it sensed that some data was changed, but anyways, the data is saved now. And now I can click on the submit for approval button to start the submission process. And now note that when we start the submit process for this timesheet, it will automatically send an approval email to my manager, who happens to be John Khwaja in this case. John will receive an email saying that, hey, you have a timesheet submitted by Asif Khwaja and you need to approve it. So they will receive that email, and from that email they can approve it. So we will have a look at that part as well in a while. But here you can see that as soon as I submitted this timesheet, the status changed to submitted, and the form also went into the read-only mode. So I cannot change any of these times anymore. The reset button is also disabled, so I cannot change anything once I have submitted this week's timesheet. I can, while I'm here on this screen, go into my next week and start creating my timesheet for that week and save it. But we can definitely do that now, or come back next week and start submitting our next week's timesheet. But also notice that when on the current timesheet, previously when we were creating this timesheet, the status was new, but now the status is saved. So it's showing what is the current status of this timesheet. It's saved and it's submitted. Okay. Now let's go back to the home page and see how the approval process works and what the approver sees on their part. As an employee, if I'm an employee and I go into the approval section, it won't show me anything. As an approver, I can only see the timesheets that have been submitted to me only for approval. Okay, I cannot see anyone else's timesheets that have been submitted for approvals. So obviously I'm an employee. Even though I can come to this screen, I cannot see anyone's submitted timesheets here. Okay. All right, so now let's see how John, who happens to be my approver, will go in and approve my timesheets. Okay, so now let's switch over to John's browser and see as a manager what he can do to approve the submitted timesheets. So I will switch over to John's browser here, and you can see that the top of this browser is black just to identify that this is John's browser. And you can also see JK here. So John is currently logged in on this browser. Now on this browser, we will go to his email and see whether he has received an email. And yes, we can see that he has already received an email when Asif Khwaja, which is myself, submitted a timesheet for him. You can see it says that a new timesheet is waiting for your approval. Now this email not only indicates that a new timesheet has been submitted for you, but it also gives them a link here that they can click on to open up the Timesheet Management app directly from here instead of going and finding where the Timesheet Management app is, and they can easily go in and approve the timesheet. And this link will actually open up the approval screen directly from that Timesheet Management app. So it won't just start the app, it will actually take them to their approval screen so that they can easily approve the timesheet from there. Okay, so we can do that, but let's have a look at the PowerApp way that he has already this PowerApp opened on his side. Now from here, obviously he as a manager is also an employee, so he can submit and view his own timesheets. But this is where he will go in and approve other people's or his subordinates' timesheets or reject them. Yeah, so he can approve as well as reject. So let's see if we click on the approve button. So now when we click on the approve button and we are currently logged in as John, it actually shows them the employee that he has the timesheet for approval. Okay. Now, if there are other employees who have also submitted timesheets for John, they will all be listed in this drop down here. Okay, so you can select any employee from this drop down and have their weeks selected, and start the approval process for that particular employee. So in this particular instance, we have only one employee, which happens to be me. And weeks, yeah, we can see that this employee has 2 timesheets for 2 different weeks submitted here. So as an approver, John can select any week and see the timesheet for that week. So this is for the week ending 22nd May, which was the 21st week of the year. And I can see all the dates, I can see all the times, and total hours, which was 37 and a half total hours. And I can see that Asif has submitted it. Or I can go and select another week and see the timesheets details for that week. So you can see that on Wednesday, Asif didn't work, so he put all zeros there, and the timesheet is submitted. All right. So now as a manager, I can actually do 2 things. I can either reject it or approve it. Okay. Now there could be any reason behind rejection. Obviously, maybe he did work on Wednesday and he did it mistakenly. So I want him to fix this. So I can reject his timesheet. So if I reject his timesheet, then it won't let me without any comments. So I do have to put comments if I want to reject the timesheet. Okay, so I will say, hey, can you please correct the hours for Wednesday, and I can then go and reject this timesheet. Okay, so let's go ahead and reject this timesheet first, and then we will let Asif, who is the employee, correct this timesheet and then resubmit it, and then John can again go and approve it. So let's see that whole workflow. So when an approver rejects this timesheet, then as an employee, I should receive an email that, hey, your timesheet has been rejected because of these reasons. So let me go back to my browser as an employee and see if we have received any emails. So let me open up my Outlook to just quickly see. I did hear a sound in the background though, indicating that we may have received an email. So fingers crossed, and looks like we have. And it says that timesheet was rejected. And it says your timesheet for the week ending 29th of May has been rejected by John. So it gives us the proper message and also comments that John put in the timesheet while he rejected it. So now I can go back into my timesheet app and look at my timesheet status. So I will go and view my timesheets, and I will select rejected because I know that John rejected my timesheet. So I will go into the rejected part, and I can see there is one rejected timesheet sitting there. And these are the hours for Wednesday that I have to correct, and the status is rejected. So as an employee, I can also see John's comments here on this screen. I can delete this timesheet and go back and resubmit this one. So that is also possible. But then again, if this timesheet was beyond 3 weeks limit that we have on the submission form, then I wouldn't be able to do that. I will have to come here and then edit and resubmit from this section. So I will click on edit and resubmit, and this will then take me to edit my timesheet form. And here I can see that, yeah, that's the week that I want to edit the timesheet for, and the approver was John, and John's comments here as well that, hey, can you correct for the Wednesday? So I can then come here and fix my Wednesday times, and I can say I started on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. I finished on 4:30, and my lunchtime was 12:30, and I finished my lunch at 1:30. So my total hours for Wednesday is 6.5 hours. Once I'm happy with my corrections, I can now go and resubmit this timesheet for approval. Now when I resubmit, once again, John will receive an email. So let's go over to John's browser and see how he can approve that resubmitted timesheet. Now obviously you can go into his email and open up the app from there, but because we have his app already opened, so let's go into the approval section for John. And once again we have the employee selected in the employee drop down, and we have the weeks. So we have 2 weeks again. So we the currently selected week is already there, and we can see that the employee, who is Asif, has fixed the Wednesday time for this timesheet, and this time John is happy with this timesheet, so he can go and approve the timesheet. Now for approval, the comments are optional, so even if you don't provide any comments, it will let you approve the timesheet. But let's put some comments here. Okay, approved. And then you can click on approve timesheet to approve this particular timesheet for that employee. And the employee then should receive an email saying that, hey, your timesheet was approved. Now please notice that while we are on this approval screen for John, because the timesheet for the week 29th May was already approved, it has actually disappeared from this drop down here now. Okay, so we have only the last week's timesheet still remaining for approval here, and John can also go in and approve this timesheet as well without any comments. Okay, and once that's done, then you will see that the timesheet window is empty now for John because he has approved all the timesheets for the employee. This message that you see here is only a debug message, so won't hurt you anything. So let's now go back to John's browser and see if he has received any emails. So we can see that he has received 2 emails, one without comments for the week ending 22nd of May, saying that your timesheet was approved, and the other one was with comments which said okay, approved for the week 29th of May. So all notifications being generated by the app, not only for the employees but also for the managers. Now the employee can also come here on his Timesheet Management app and see the status of his timesheets directly here. So obviously this time there are no rejected timesheets for him, but if he clicks on approved, then he can see the 29th May timesheet with comments okay, approved, the status showing approved, and if he goes and selects 22nd, that one was also approved, as you can see, but no comments there. All right, so this is the whole functionality for employees and managers who can submit their timesheets, edit their timesheets, resubmit them. They can view their timesheets. They can also, as managers or approvers, approve or reject the timesheets. Okay. Now, there are 3 more buttons on this screen which are very useful for some authorized people. And by authorized, I mean a person who could be an administrator of the Timesheet Management app, or they could also be another authorized person from, let's say, payroll department. It could be a payroll officer who might be interested in searching and seeing all the past timesheets for all employees, seeing who approved them and what were the timings, how many hours. They may be responsible for arranging salaries for those employees, so they might be able to go into this search section and search all the past submitted and approved or rejected timesheets here. Okay. Report section is the one that actually generates a report and shows you the timesheet management report, and we will see how we can configure this and see this work and see how it works. Settings section is the section where the timesheet management app administrator, when they set up this app in their Office 365 environment, go in there and set up the default configuration values for this timesheet management app. And then this section can also be used by the person who is responsible for managing this timesheet management app going forward. So we will have a look at that in a while, but let's see the search section first, that how it works. Now you would notice that this lock button here that is being displayed here is kind of open lock. This open lock means that's an indicator that I, as a person who is currently logged in, Asif Khwaja, I am the authorized person. I can go in and do all the search in this section. Okay, but if I switch over to John's browser and go back to the home page for John, you would notice that John, even though he is an approver for some employees, he is not the authorized person to access these 3 sections here. So for him, it's the icon is closed. So even if John clicks on these buttons, nothing happens. So he's not one of the administrators, or he's not one of the authorized persons for this timesheet management app. All right. But for me as Asif Khwaja, I have the ability to go into these sections because I happen to be one of the administrators. And I will show you how the administrators are set up and how you can change or add or delete administrators for the solution. So let's go into the search section first. So I can come here and select all the employees. Now this drop down will have the list of all the employees who have submitted their timesheets in the past. In this particular case, we happen to have only one employee, so I will select that. And then under the status, you can see the default status selected is in progress. And for Asif, we don't have any timesheet in progress. So obviously it doesn't show us anything. It says that there are no timesheets with in progress status. If we go and click on submitted, for Asif, we don't have any submitted timesheets either. If you go and select approved, so now it started showing all the data for Asif's timesheets. Okay, and we can see that he has 2 timesheets in approved status. We can go and select whatever date we are interested in and see all the data for him. The timesheet was approved. We can also see who the approver was. We can see their comments, and we can do all of that. Okay, we can change the status to rejected to see if anyone rejected any timesheets for this employee. Now this tool can be very handy. If some employee thinks that his timesheet wasn't approved or was rejected incorrectly, and there is a conflict between, let's say, employee or the managers, so they can always go to the authorized person, who could be a payroll officer or an administrator, and ask them to find out what's going on. And then the administrator can then come in this section and find all of that data here. All right, so very useful. And this is not limited to only any specific number of weeks. You can go all the way to the past and search for all the timesheets for any employee and any timesheets which is in any status. Okay, and also notice that this drop down will actually show only 20 weeks listed by default here, but then we can click on the load more button here to actually load more. This is just so the Timesheet Management app copes up with the data and doesn't overload with unnecessary data being loaded in the app. All right, so this is the search section of the Timesheet Management app. Now if I go back here again and look at the report section, what it does is that if I click on the report section right now, it will actually open up our one of the SharePoint lists that I showed you earlier, which is the timesheet employees weeklies list. And this is because this list actually shows the timesheets, weekly timesheets for all employees with their current statuses, like whether the timesheets are approved or rejected and all of that. So because this data is already there in the SharePoint list, and we can easily open this list and have a look at it, we can export this list to a Excel document and have some investigation and filtering and searching over there as well. So that's why we have chosen to show this particular list to be opened from the Timesheet Management app here. But as I said, this is all configurable. If you don't want to show that report and you have some other report, for example, a Power BI report that you might have created for the timesheet data, you can actually link that Power BI report over here. And all of this can be configured from the settings section. Okay, so as an authorized person, I can go into the settings section and define some of these values for my application, for my Timesheet Management app. So let's see what those settings are. The first field here is for the app web link. So we need to provide this app web link here, and this is very important because this app link will be used inside the emails that are sent to the approvers. Okay, so the approver will get a link inside the email that he receives, and when he clicks on that link, the app opens up, and so that link is being created through this app web link. So when the SharePoint administrator or the PowerApp administrator sets up this this timesheet management app for the first time in your organization, they will have to come here and define this app web link. And the second option here is whether you want to use the timesheet list in SharePoint for reporting. And because we have selected yes, this is where you will need to provide the URL for your SharePoint site, and then it will automatically create this report URL. And this is the report URL which is linked with the report button on the home page and opened up that timesheet weekly list. If you have your own Power BI report, for example, or some other report for that matter, it could be an Excel document or anything that you have created for your timesheets, you just need to grab the URL for that report, switch this one off because we don't want to use SharePoint list for our reporting, and then just update this report URL with your new reporting URL, which could be a Power BI or whatever. Okay. Below this, you can see we have the default start and end times. We can define the start and ending times for our timesheets. And as you can see, in our case, we have defined the day start time as 9 o'clock, lunch start 12, lunch end 1 o'clock, and then day end at 5:30. You can change this setting here. If I change the day start from 9 a.m. to let's say 8:30 a.m. and day end time from 5:30 to 6 p.m. or that would be too long, maybe 5 p.m. and save this data, then all of the timesheets that people will create from this point and onwards will have these times automatically defined as default times. Okay, so very useful. And below this one, you can also see that we have the timesheet administrators. Now, as you can see, I'm the only timesheet administrator at the moment. This is why I am the authorized person and I could come to these screens. If I want to give other people the power to see those reports and come to this app settings page and manage these settings, I can add them here. So I can search for those people here. I can say, hey, let's add Peter also. Okay. So this will go and search for Peter. There he is. And I can then click on save button and Peter will be added to this list. That makes him another administrator for our apps, for our timesheet management app. Okay, I can choose to delete someone from this list as well. So I can delete Peter, and let me show you. If we add John, then you will see that previously he wasn't being able to go into those restricted sections, but once we add John, now we have added John here, and we did click on save. Now if I go back to John's browser and just refresh the page, because obviously we will need to refresh it to see whether he is able to get into those restricted sections. And there you go. So now you see that John can see those logs appearing unlocked, and now he can go into the search section, which previously he wasn't being able to. Also run the report. So he's now able to open up the report and see all the data here, as you can see, as well as you can go into the settings section and change any of these settings. So he because he is currently logged in, he cannot delete himself because he is the administrator, but he can definitely kick me out of this section and make me a non-administrator. Okay, but we won't do that. Okay, So this is the whole functionality of our timesheet management app. We hope you can see the value that this app or solution can provide to your business. If you have any questions or feedback about the app or want to know about any parts of the app as to how we build them, please leave them in the comments of this video. I will try my best to respond to all of your comments. If you need any help with this solution or want to purchase it or want to know how this was built and want to build it yourself, please see the links provided below in the video description. You can actually download right now full setup instructions in the PDF format with a step-by-step guide from the link provided in the description of this video to deploy this solution in your own Office 365 environment. With that, I will say have fun and have a good day.